That's my pet peeve of the day. Computers. Colleen Mertesdorf is with us. She knows about computers, right, Colleen?
I do.
You work with one every single day?
Every day, all day.
Say, when you got into education, did you have computers?
Oh gosh, I'm going to date myself here.
Well,
yeah.
I'm not trying to.
Little Apple computers with green screens and, yeah, old technology.
But you did have them.
For very few applications, yeah.
I mean, can you imagine being a business director of a school district the size of Faribault and not having them?
Yes, you had to do everything by hand. It was a lot of ledger work, and yeah, I cannot imagine it. It does make our jobs easier, but...
You did have calculators.
We did have calculators, yes.
Yeah. Let's see, I'm trying to think. I think I was the first kid in my class to get a calculator. Texas Instruments. I went to Spring Valley High School, little school.
That's a pretty
I got it at Dayton's in Minneapolis on a school trip. We were on a school trip, and they gave us time to go shopping, believe it or not.
And you bought a calculator?
I bought a Texas Instruments calculator. $80 I paid for it.
That's a lot of money.
Why do I remember that?
I don't know.
It had so many functions on it that I never used.
And it was about that big, right?
It was pretty big. It was a big calculator. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Colleen is the business director. Is that your official title?
Director of Finance and Operations. Many things, but officially Director of Finance and Operations.
Okay. So the operations part, I understand the finance part, but the
operations, generally a lot of times these positions include operations, which is food service, transportation, and buildings and grounds. So I oversee those functions.
Oh, okay. You oversee the food service. I did not know that.
Yes, we have a food service director, we have a transportation company, transportation director,
right.
And of course Kevin Hildebrand, our buildings and grounds director. You know, they do the day-to-day management of that, but I oversee them and help them with planning and budgeting and forecasting and
sure.
setting goals.
You do what I think is maybe the most difficult job in a school district, and that's enrollment projections.
Yes.
You know the history here in Faribault. They got in some deep trouble at one time because enrollment projections were so far off.
Yes.
It's not an exact science, is it?
No, all you can do is base projections based on history. All you can do is project based on history. And if you have a very stable community and a very stable, you don't have a lot of ins and outs, you don't have a lot of industry leaving or coming and going, or building coming and going, although we like to see those things come in, we don't like to see them leave. But if you have a lot of stability, enrollment projections can be pretty easy. But in Faribault, it's a little tricky. Yeah,
no, we
it's
have
a little tricky.
A big influx of a Somali population.
Yes, and actually our immigrant population that's come into Faribault has really saved this district.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we've been pretty stable for the whole 7 years I've been here. Had we not had that influx of immigration, we would be in serious enrollment decline.
Right, and in their infinite wisdom, the legislature has tied funding to enrollment.
Yes, that's the way it works in the state of Minnesota and for most states. Yep, the bulk of our state aid comes from our enrollment. So we get about $6,000 per student for general state aid. That's the big bulk of our money.
But see, I've always said that your buildings are your buildings. Doesn't matter how many kids are in them, you still have to maintain them.
Yes, you do. Yep.
Your school buses, you may need a few more if you have more students, but generally not a ton more.
Right.
I mean, those costs are pretty set.
Yes. Yep, those costs are pretty set, and that helps when you're growing slightly, but it also hurts you when you're declining slightly because you don't have enough of a decline to cut some of those costs too.
We're going to get our market update, a service of your KDHL Agri-Boosters, and Hildebrand might be joining us as well, but he is unable to join us this morning, Director of the Buildings and Grounds, but Colleen just noted in the first segment that she oversees that area anyway, so what kind of shape are our buildings in, Colleen?
You know, they're in not too bad a shape. We've done, I think you'll remember that we passed a $15 million bond issue about 6 years ago and did some pretty major renovations to all of our sites and buildings, and that really got us up to speed with things. But as you know, things always deteriorate and you always need to maintain them. So we will be looking forward to some new funding coming through in the next few years called long-term facilities maintenance funding. And it'll actually give us about another $1 million to put towards our building maintenance deferred projects. So
and that sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, and you know, for you and I, but $1 million in terms of building maintenance, what does it cost to re-roof one of your buildings that have to be done every other year?
Could be, you know, $2 to $3 million to do a roof, you know, and we've got a chiller plant at the high school that needs replacing. That's about $800,000 to $900,000. So 1 year of that funding will take up that money right there, and then you think about all the little things: painting, carpet, lockers, windows, all of those kinds of things that need to be taken care of. So we are in the process now of doing some good planning for that money and meeting with all of our building principals and building heads to identify all the projects that need to be fit into this new funding stream. So,
You know, I went on the website of each of the elementary schools in our district, hoping to find how old the buildings were.
Oh.
It's not listed anywhere there. I was just curious. Do you, off the top of your head, know?
Oh gosh, I
know
don't.
Roosevelt is what, 20 years old?
Yes, at least, yeah, at least. The middle school is probably 30 years old now, I'm thinking, because that bond issue
Well, it was
just paid
built
off.
before I got here,
I think
and
it was-
I've been here 28 years.
Yeah, I think it was built in '85, I believe.
Yep, I think you're right there.
Yeah, no, we do have that listed. I would almost grab that before I came, but
Well,
I
that's
didn't.
okay.
But, yeah.
That's quite all right. But I was just curious because I don't know how old. I mean, Jefferson was here when I got here, Lincoln was here when I got here,
Yeah.
and of course Roosevelt was built, what, a quarter century ago
Yep.
or so.
Yep.
Seems like yesterday.
Yep. Time goes fast.
That's what happens when you get older.
Yep.
It really does fly by very, very fast. And Roosevelt, very good shape still.
Yes, all the buildings really are in good shape. Kevin's done a great job. Kevin and his crew have done a great job of maintaining the buildings. We have work to do, but we're always trying to stay on top of it.
I know Superintendent Sesker told us last time he was here, there are some space issues at some of the
Yeah.
schools,
Yes.
but he did not think at this time it would require any building.
Nope, we're not at the point where we're ready to talk about that just yet. We're doing some internal discussions about how we're using our space and how it can be best used, and as those discussions take place, we'll make some decisions about what we need to do going forward.
Yeah, we were chatting before hitting the airwaves. The official enrollment day from the state is October 1st.
That's the day that they take a so-called snapshot picture of all the schools across the state of Minnesota. That's
Yeah.
correct.
So,
Yep.
if you have enrollment figures with you, these are not supposedly official by the state standards, but they are by your standards, right?
Right. So we always look at our first of the month counts on every first of the month. I gotta find my sheet here.
That's okay.
But we
September.
projected last June, we always project in June what we think is going to happen the next year. We projected 3,807 kids.
And what'd you end up with?
On September, as of yesterday, 3,828. So we're a little bit ahead of projections, but that's not unusual for us. We generally start out high, and we typically lose kids throughout the school year. So I am pretty confident that we'll stick pretty close to that projected number by the end of the school year.
That's good.
Yes, that's
you'd
good.
rather be wrong in the
High
plus side
side,
rather than
yep.
the negative side.
That's right, yeah. And we're generally pretty conservative with enrollment numbers. We want to be sure that we don't anticipate more money than we will actually get. So.
When you look at birth records and that sort of thing?
We look at the census, yes. Every fall we do a census count of 0 to 4-year-olds, so we take that into account when we look at our projections. We also look at all the other school options within Faribault and surrounding communities, and how many kids typically go to those schools out of that incoming kindergarten class, and then we project based on trends too, past trends. So.
Do we receive a lot of open enrollment students in our district?
You know, we do receive some, but we are what's called a net loser on open enroll. We have more kids that open enroll out than we do open enroll in. And I don't have that number for this year, but in the past that's been pretty significant. We generally lose about 200 to 300 kids to open
And the
enrollment.
reason is because of all the options we have here?
They don't necessarily, the open enrollment will mean that those kids are open enrolling to another public school.
Oh, okay.
So that
It
doesn't
mean
include the
BA,
kids, right, yeah. But we do have a lot of options in Faribault. I think that's one of the nice things about our community that we have to offer people is you get a lot of choice when it comes to school.
Yep, the Athens of the
And that's okay, yep.
West.
Yes, that's right. I've heard that term, and I think that's good.
The Athens of the West. That's what they used to call Faribault, the
Yep.
Athens of the West. Last time the superintendent was on, I had come upon some information about a number of school districts having some trouble with their lunch finances. 'Cause
Right.
people weren't paying their lunch bills.
Right.
Superintendent said, yeah, we have that problem here too.
Yes, we do. You know, typically we've had anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 at the end of any given year in what we call negative lunch balances. In other words, kids that have eaten lunches but have not paid for them, and we had in the past had cut them off at a certain point, but then they just never made up those lunch balances. But there's a lot of press as you remember last year, about school districts and how they handled
Right.
those negative lunch balances in
Some didn't
Faribault.
allow the kids to eat. That
Right.
does not happen here.
Does not happen here. Our policy is that every child in grades K through 8 gets a hot meal every day, regardless of what their lunch balance is. Our high school kids are allowed to eat up to 5 days, and then we cut them off at that point. We expect them to be a little more responsible about letting their parents know we're getting some money into their account. But last year, with that new policy of allowing students to eat regardless of their fund balance or their lunch balance, we ended up about 21,000 in the hole.
So some people are taking advantage of that, you think?
You know, it's hard to say. That might be what some people might say. We do have over 50% free and reduced population within the Faribault Public School system, K-12, so hunger is an issue in Rice County.
Breakfast is served.
Breakfast, we serve lunch, we serve after-school snacks, we serve an after-school meal program at the middle school. We partake in every single food service program that the state of Minnesota has to offer.
They're offering a new one here. It's coming up in the summer, I understand.
We've done summer food service. We've done that for about 3 years now. So that's been a pretty important part of our programming with Summer STEAM. We offer education, but we also offer then meals for kids, breakfast and lunch. So it's really important for kids to get those meals every day.
Yeah, the state wants to expand upon that, is what I was reading.
Yes, I have not read about that, but we've done everything we possibly can offer here that the USDA, the federal government, allows for schools to offer. So we feel really good about that. We're getting a lot of food out to kids.
So just to clarify, are we talking district-wide over 50% on
Yes.
free and reduced?
Yes, district-wide over 50%. At our elementary buildings, it's more it's closer to 70%. So
Wow.
it hits our elementary buildings pretty hard. Yeah. So it's a concern. It's a real concern. And we have a great food service director, Tim Cockrum. He is on top of this and really wants kids to be fed and making sure that they get good, nutritious lunches.
Right, but we got to make sure those bills get paid too.
Yes, we do. So what happens when we have these negative food service balances is that the general fund does have to cover that. So we make a transfer at the end of the year and just cover that. But we're going to work a little harder this year to to make a more personal contact with families that are having trouble, to make sure that if they need to fill out the application to qualify for free or reduced lunches, we're getting that done. Or how can we help you? Is there some other agency that we can put you in contact with? And making sure that we are being fiscally responsible too.
Yeah, I talked to Superintendent Susker about the possibility of maybe starting up an angel fund or something where people could donate it.
Yes, a lot of school districts do have that, where people can donate and that money can be used for students whose families can't afford to pay, but maybe don't qualify for free or reduced lunch. They're kind of right at that bubble.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to see kids go hungry.
No, and you know, much of the time it's not a child's fault.
No, they have no control.
Right, right. So we just don't want kids sitting in a school desk in a chair trying to learn and having hunger issues. That just is not good for education.
But the trend is upward. You said 21,000?
21,000 last year, yes. So that was, you know, more than double what we'd had in any other year, but we also had not as strict guidelines around cutting kids off from lunch. So we're hoping that we can turn that around a little bit this year.
Yeah, well, I know Superintendent Susker noted too that you're going to be a little more aggressive in collecting.
Yes,
too.
yes, that's our stance, you know, rather than just send home letters. We're going to, I just met with Tim actually yesterday, and we're going to put a 4-step progression process in place to help encourage, to get parents to pay and to find the help that they might need.
Here, I wrote down all these notes on things I wanted to talk about, and I didn't bring the notes in here with me.
Well,
now, isn't that interesting?
yes, I could keep rambling here if you want me to. But
financially, the district in good shape?
Yes, we just are finishing up our audit for the 14-15 school year. We are in great shape. All of our funds are positive. We have a little over a 16% fund balance in the general and designated fund, which is the measure of health of the district. Auditors recommend 15%, so we're above what auditors recommend, and our district policy is 9.5%. So we're sitting very, very financially healthy and poised for good things in the future to come. So.
That's good to know. The iPad program went well?
Yes.
The distribution?
Yes, we have. I heard a presentation on Monday night at the work session by our technology department, and They distributed, I think we're close to 2,300 iPads now in grades 6 through 12. All the high school kids have them, and our middle school, I think we were only short less than 10 kids that didn't have them. So teachers presented what they're doing with it, some exciting things going on with that as a learning tool. Obviously it doesn't replace what a teacher does, but it's just another tool that kids can use to further their education.
I was reading on the website and trying to do a little preparation work for the program today that insurance is not required on these. It's encouraged but not required.
Right, and I actually sat through the 4 days of, I volunteered, helped, worked, you know, I guess I can't call myself a volunteer, I was working during working hours, but manning the table for insurance with 2 of our other district office staff. And I don't think, if we even had one person who turned it down, I don't think we did, because it was really inexpensive. Anywhere from $20 to $40 for the whole year.
That's it.
That's it, to cover the first incident. So most parents, when they heard that, they thought it was $40 a month. When they heard it was $40 a year, they said, oh, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, so I think we have, I would say 99% of our people who have iPads took the insurance.
And that just covers it for the school district.
Covers it for, yes, so if the student...
This is a replacement if something happens.
Right. If the student drops it and the screen gets broken or it doesn't work, we can repair it. If it gets lost or stolen, they have to file a police report, but then we can replace it for them under that insurance plan. Now, if it happens a second and third time, there might be some other costs involved, but at least the first time it's covered under the insurance plan.
And they're going over very well?
Very well. Kids are excited, yeah. It was really fun to watch that day because it was about a 9-step process, and I was the insurance was the first step, or first or second, and as they were coming around, they exited the same way they came in, and it was exciting to see how happy they were to get them. So
yeah, and a lot of kids, because we just established the fact that we are a relatively poor district in terms of free and reduced lunch.
Right.
A lot of the kids would not be able to afford it.
That's correct. They could not afford this piece of technology to help them with their learning. So we're very excited. Just great things are going to happen in our learning communities. Our teachers are excited about these too. We've seen them get reinvigorated with new learning strategies. So
Colleen Mertesdorf is the Finance Director and Director of Buildings and Grounds. Is that what you said? Operations.
Operations.
There you
correct.
Go. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Anyway, Colleen is with us this morning out of Minnesota. We're talking about finances in the Faribault Public Schools. As I mentioned before, Kevin Hildebrandt was going to be with us, but was unable to make it. Todd Sesker could not make it today. He was originally scheduled and said, hey, well, actually, I said you could send somebody else. And so he sent Colleen, and I certainly do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate your coming in.
Thank you.
Now, there was talk of an addition at the high school for the district offices.
Correct, yes. Well,
Where's
not the
that
district
right now?
office. We proposed and have planned and have started. We have 2 additions. One is at the high school building, and that is called the Faribault Education Center, and that will house our adult education programs and a couple of other smaller community ed programs. Currently, those spaces, that program is operating out of Town Square, which is lease space. So we wanted to get away from our leases because, as you know, it's important to own what you own rather than lease. It really helps our taxpayers. The lease is a levy on the taxpayers, so the sooner we can own something, the less we have to charge our taxpayers. So we will see some tax decrease down the road for owning these properties. So that project is currently being built, about 12,000 square feet. You'll see some construction on the southwest side of the building going on back there. So we're really excited to have that get going.
The Alternative Learning Center is not part of that.
No, the ALC is still in the building out by the district office, out on by the bus garage too, on the north end of town.
But the district office, the middle school is where it's going, right?
Yes, and then we're adding on to the middle school on this, again on the southwest side of the building for district offices, because we currently lease that space also. So we want to get out from under these leases. We want to own our own space for that. And there simply was not any room in any of our current buildings to house either the adult education program or the district office. So we're adding on to the middle school to house the district office spaces, and both those facilities should be ready by June 1st of next year.
Well, and I can't remember the exact number. I'll bet you, being a numbers person, you'll have it right off the top of your head. Superintendent said the payback on this is pretty quick.
Yes, I should have brought that again with me, but I think we've got full payback in about 17 years. So whether you think that's quick or not, we'll see some reduction probably within the next 5 to 10 years on the leases, but full payback would be about 17 years.
And the ALC will stay where it's at?
Yes, the ALC for now will stay where it's at. Yeah, we don't have any plans to move that at this time.
That could come down the pipe, but it's not in the offing.
Nothing
future.
we've discussed right now. Yeah, that's correct. Not on the table.
Fantastic. Anything else you can share with us this
Oh
morning?
gosh,
in terms of the financial world?
Let's see, what else did I have on my list? I think we covered a lot of our a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about today. So
You're kidding.
I think we did.
We were on the same page and we didn't even visit much
I
before
know.
the show.
Great minds.
Wow, what are the chances of that? So if I were to look about the years, well, I suppose cornerstones are probably on all the buildings, right?
Yes, you know, I can
That'll
send you
tell me
that.
how old
I
these
can send you that information too. We actually have that broken down by building, and within each building, even the additions. So it was originally built, you know, this many square feet was originally built in this year, and then there was an addition in this year of this many square feet. So I can send you that information too, so you've got it.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I could have it put on our website too, so people can see.
Curiosity killed the cat, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But just, I was curious because I thought Kevin might be here and we were going to talk about maintenance of the buildings. I didn't realize that you could share that information with us as well.
Yes, yeah.
No major roof issues or anything?
No, you know, when we replaced all the roofs with that $15 million bond issue, and we put on what are called, 30-year roofs with annual maintenance. So we are not anticipating a major roof repair for a very long time. You know, obviously we have to do the annual maintenance to make sure that they're kept up. But we put on a very well-known and excellent roof on all of our buildings. So.
Well, that's good. I'm amazed at, with all the technology we have with iPads, and we've got satellites that go out and take pictures of Mars that are in HD quality, that we can't come up with a roof that'll last a while here in Minnesota.
Yeah. 30 years isn't bad on the school building. That's a pretty long time. So.
Yeah, well, they're all flat roofs too. I didn't understand.
Yes, and those are harder. Those are harder to maintain, and
people try to tell me it's an engineering issue, and I'm not an engineer, but I don't really buy that.
Yeah, I'm not an engineer either. Now you might get into some Kevin questions when you start talking more specifically about that.
Well, that's okay. Maybe we'll have to have Kevin on and talk about it.
He'd love to come.
Because I'd be very curious, in that realm as well.
Yeah.
You've been there how long? 7 years, you say?
7. I'm starting my 8th year, so a little over into my 8th year. I came in the spring of 2008. So.
Must enjoy it.
I do. I've been in this business for close to 30 years, so I've really enjoyed it as a career. It's been phenomenal. Yeah. Always a challenge, but I like a challenge.
Oh yeah. Well, and I know when you arrived, seems that's when it was just after we had some enrollment projection issues.
Yeah, there was a bit of a turmoil in the district, and I think that the finances were in a little bit of disrepair, but we worked really hard to get them back on track, and I think we've done a good job. It's not been without some pain over the years. We had to make some pretty deep cuts those first few years to get back on track, but we're sitting really well. And the state's come through with some good funding, so we're managing our finances very well.
Well, and you may get some more here. It sounds like the coffers of the state are burgeoning at the seams.
Yes, yep, it's definitely possible.
Because they just found out they had more money in their coffers than they thought they had.
Yep, it's been a good couple of years for the state of Minnesota too, so we would anticipate that funding would not be cut, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more going forward.
Yeah, the economy is going well statewide.
Yes.
Are we seeing a trend? You mentioned earlier about the free and reduced lunch. Is that going upward?
You know,
percentages?
it has increased a little bit every year. We're holding pretty steady to that 50% district-wide, 70% at the elementary level. That's been pretty much the mark that we've hit for the last couple of years.
You know how that compares to districts our size in the area?
You know, I think we're pretty high compared to Northfield, Owatonna, Medford, some of the smaller districts. I think in this area we probably have one of the highest. If you go more south to Albert Lee, Austin, you might meet some comparable numbers down there.
And just to let the listeners know, the qualifications are the same everywhere, right?
Right. This is a federal nationwide program. So the United States Department of Agriculture runs the food service program, and they set the income guidelines. It's the same for everyone across the nation.
Districts can't change it
No,
anyway.
we are not allowed. Nope, the application comes from them. We cannot change that application. So we're in the process right now. People have to reapply to qualify, so they're in the process right now of doing that. By October 1, we have a new count then for this school year. So.
And I'm sure there are some pride issues. Some people just don't
Right.
want to receive what they consider a handout, but
Right.
really they should apply because
Yep.
it benefits the district.
It does. It not only gets your child nutritious food throughout the day, it also qualifies us for what's called compensatory revenue. So it does generate some extra income for us in the form of what's called compensatory revenue, because that's based on your free and reduced lunch count. When I first came to this district, I think we were at $1.5 million in compensatory revenue. We're now about at 4.7 million. So yes, the struggle that comes with a high free and reduced population is compensated by giving you extra money to help those students. Whether or not it's true that the correlation that is stated is that if you have low-income students, they're probably struggling learners. They don't get as much help at home. They don't have as much resources at home to get what they need to do. So the state gives you this compensatory money to put extra program and staff in place to help those struggling learners.
Yeah, because we don't want them to be behind just because they're in a lower
Right.
economic status.
Right. Again, it's not their fault that they're in that situation.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Thanks, Colleen, for coming in. I certainly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Great job filling in for the soup.
All right. Talk
You
to
have
you
a
soon.
super day.
Thanks.
Colleen Mertesdorf, she is a Director of Finances and, of course, Buildings and Grounds Operations Manager as well, our guest today. Tomorrow, Spirit Fest will be at Divine Mercy Catholic Church. You're in tune to KDHL.